All right, we may finish up our lecture on the perils of biblical leadership. We're going to try. Then we're going to actually. We won't. Okay, so we're gonna finish up point A under it. All right, so the perils in biblical leadership. We are looking at the cost of leadership. So we're going to try to finish that one up today. And we'll start into the second aspect of the perils, and that is the test of leadership. So we have today, tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be done at 11:30, because Pastor Armacost then is going to review some preaching conference details. So he asked if he could do that. So the cost of leadership, number one, last week, there is what? Oh, you guys are so awake. Oh, it's been a nice week. Oh, what was yesterday? What was yesterday? What? What was yesterday? Was it light? Love? And you guys didn't even, you're like, what is that? What is that? All right, it's our way to get work done in May. You guys didn't figure that out yet? We have white gloves so that we can get a lot of raking and mowing and weed eating and stuff like that. Flower beds taken care of in May. You guys, it's impossible to pass white glove. You haven't figured that out. All right? I knew that when I was in school. All right? So anyways, self-sacrifice. There's a financial sacrifice. Secondly, there was a emotional sacrifice. There's a spiritual sacrifice. Number two, and we didn't cover a lot of this, we just kind of gave you a thought, and that is loneliness. And our idea was Moses, also even Elijah. You could put that down because both of them, there was loneliness there. And it's not saying that as a leader it's always going to be you're by yourself and you're weeping all the time. You don't find Moses doing that. You don't find Elijah, but you do find spots in their life that you can kind of sense that the pressure. There really wasn't anybody that they could turn to. All right, so loneliness. Number three, we had fatigue, and by that there's a physical cost. And we said that laziness and leadership do not go hand in hand. Okay, if you have a problem with laziness, this is what I can tell you this. You're either going to have to overcome that or you will not lead people. All right, I do not know of good leaders, and I know good leaders in business. I know dozens of them, all right, locally, some around the country, and they are in the majority of those that I know are decent Christians that I've met, and they are go-getters. They do not, as we say the phrase, they do not let the grass grow underneath their feet. They get at it. So if you have a tendency to laziness and you say, well, you know what, this just isn't for me, I think that I'll be able to do something else and I'll be really good at it, but you're lazy, sorry. More than likely, you're going to have to work at conquering that. All of us have weaknesses. Okay, some people, their weakness could be in some aspect of their personality. It could be anger. It could be that there's a weakness. There's some people that just, it seems like there's weakness with morality sometimes. Some people, the weakness is just flat out lazy. And you're going to have to work to overcome these. It doesn't mean that it's never possible to lead, but what you're going to have to do is work at that. So fatigue, so we said laziness and leadership do not go hand in hand, but you will be wore out. You will be wore out, and so you need to understand that. All right, the fourth one, this is where we pick up today. Criticism. Criticism. All right, so let me give you then a couple of things here underneath this. First, there's many reasons why, especially in the ministry, you can expect criticism. All right, so let me give you a few reasons why you just have to expect it. First, A pastor can expect criticism because of his own sin. Because of his own sin. Now you would say, wait a minute. Well, tell me what pastor there is that doesn't sin. You guys are supposed to be studying theology here. So is that possible? Is that possible? It's not. Now, the problem is that many people, especially young people, growing up in a home, there came a point when you realized that dad possibly couldn't do everything. It just, and there's despondency that comes over you. You're just like, wow, I don't understand this. What am I supposed to do? Okay? In the same way, in a church setting, there's this idea that a pastor can never sin. Well, they're going to figure it out. In fact, I was doing some reading this week, kind of on prayer, because I'm doing a message on that. And so, in the course of studying some things, reading some things on prayer, one man put it this way, and I thought it was appropriate. He said that when it comes to men, as the idea that familiarity breeds contempt or whatever. Well, familiarity with man, it's not necessarily breeding contempt, but when it comes to prayer or it comes to spiritual things, familiarity with man shows error. All of us have seen that. You know that in the dorm. Those of you that are in the dorm. All right, all of us love God, but as we get familiar with each other as humans, guess what you're going to find out? We all sin. So familiarity within ourselves and within a church setting, they're going to find error. But the beauty is that familiarity with God, you never find error. What happens is the more familiar you get with God, the more you love and respect Him. You know why? You never find error. That's why, as a leader, what are we always trying to do? I'm trying to push people to follow God. Yes, as I'm supposed to be following Christ, but I'm never claiming to be perfect. And as a leader, you'll never claim to be perfect. But a pastor can expect criticism. Why? Because you're going to sin. How can you call you're a pastor and you sin? Okay, I'm kind of confused with that statement, because where is it in the Bible that there is sinless perfection? That's one of the things that you look for in a pastor. Sinless. Okay. Well, we would all not have pastors in our churches. Okay, so you can expect it because of sin, and sometimes a lay person, they can't connect it. I'm not saying morals. All right, I'm not talking about stuff that disqualifies. But people are going to sin, and so people in leadership are going to sin, and somehow we disconnect that and we say, you know what? You don't understand this. At my church, my youth pastor, he sinned. All right, now you're not saying it that way, but some people, I've dealt with people and they're like, you know what, I'm just really bitter because, you know what, my youth pastor, yeah, he did this and this and this. And they go, oh, you mean he sinned? Oh, what should we do about that? All right, it's confusing to me, because all of a sudden, it's when we get to this place of leadership, oh, they're never supposed to sin. Well, where is that? So criticism is going to come. You just have to learn to be able to take it. Secondly, a pastor can expect criticism because there are limits to his gifts. Now, what does that mean? Is there a perfect leader? Or what's a great example? Just in the Old Testament, right away, maybe it doesn't go into your mind, but right away, who do you think of as far as limits in your leadership? Moses. Right now, I would love to have some skills like Moses. All right, and I think most people would. But did he have limits? Yes, he did. And so criticism sometimes comes because, oh, what about this or this? Moses knew he was his weaknesses, but you're going to understand that criticism is going to come because of that. Thirdly, a pastor can expect criticism because you often preach below average sermons. Okay? Even in teaching, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a bad day. You just don't hit it out of the ballpark that day, and the kids are they're just biding their time, waiting for you to get done, because it's a sorry day for teaching today. All right? All of us are going to have a bad day. Every sermon is going to knock it out of the ballpark? No. It's not going to happen. So criticism can come because you often have a below average day in teaching and preaching and trying to convey. Now, why are all these true? Because we're human. One guy said, after he got done preaching one time, a guy came up to him and says, hey, and the guy didn't mean it in a mean way, but he didn't know the man or the pastor. He says, where do you work during the week? Now, his sermon, this is what the guy said, my sermon was so bad that this guy thought there is no way he studied all week. He has to be working somewhere else. All right? Now, all right, you can get all offended, but guess what? You just stunk it up. Own the stinkiness. All right? Own the stinkiness. You just botched it up that day. So a pastor can expect criticism. A teacher can sometimes, because sometimes your teaching is below average. It's going to happen. Fourthly, you can expect criticism because people can be proud and ungrateful. All right, number 5. You can expect criticism because we have a sinful and fallen world. And the last one, you can expect criticism because it's part of God's growth process. Criticism helps us. Criticism helps us to get better. Now, none of us really like it. It's not like we're running and saying, hey, come on, just rip my sermon to shreds. Come on, just destroy it. So we need to learn to have tact and things like that. I don't think anybody's really running to negativity. But without criticism, and especially in this day and age, it's funny to me how, especially the liberals, and I'd say even education world, they don't know what to do. In the education world, they're conflicted. And part of the being conflicted is because they've gone away from any rational thinking, and the rationale or the good thinking comes from the Bible, I believe. When you toss that out, and basically self is everything, and it's all about me, and that's kind of our society. Well, in the news, they'll mock the guys that, they can't take anything. They're just little sissies. Right, little sissies. In fact, I was just reading a report this morning, if you haven't seen it, but basically the name of Fox News, Bill O'Reilly, is fired. He's gone. Okay, he has been the name for 20 years. He was Fox News, so fired him, and it was for harassment, sexual harassment. So they interviewed a lady. The whole interview, I read the whole article. I was like, all right, I just want to see. What is this guy, some kind of pervert? All right, and the whole interview, all she could say was, it wasn't anything about sexual harassment. What it was is, he referred to us as, he didn't know our names. It was her and another worker. And he called us blondes. And so at the end he says, hey, blondes. I was like, you know what? I went to the boss, and then I went to their boss, and I was like, he needs to apologize. I'm like, all right, so that's harassment now? Okay, all right, because you were called blonde? What silliness? All right, and all of this big thing, you know what? I mean, he's not going to demean you. All right, so if he would have called you, and that's what one person said, so if he would have said to you as a woman, hey, you're pretty. All right, you're ugly. Right? And it's like, what is up with today in our society? So some of it in our society, you can't even say anything anymore. You can't say anything. Right? Was it good or bad? I don't know if I should say either. Why? Because if you say it's good, why are you saying that? Huh? There's a little innuendo there? Huh? You making a move? You making a hit on me? No, it's bad. Oh, so you hate women. Right? It's just, that's kind of our society, and what we have got to understand is that some aspect of criticism or grading, okay, like in schools, some aspect is good. You know, the silliness that we have today is that, you know, everybody has to be a winner. Well, that's not life, and you know that. Right? Somebody's going to get the top grade. And it's good for us. Why is it good for us to have somebody have a, all right, so then there's no incentive to do good because everybody gets, it really doesn't matter what you get. Then what happens to a society? What happens if we're not grading different things? Then we don't know how we're doing and we can't get better. And then nobody wants to achieve anything. Okay? And that's what we have to be careful. We have to understand that some amount of criticism, yes, it's going to come, but learn how to take it. There's a Puritan that hundreds of years ago wrote a number of books. One of them, I have some of the guys in pastoral theology read articles. I mean, it's heavy duty stuff. His name's Richard Baxter. All right, so it's heavy duty stuff. So you only can read articles on it. Do not do it late at night, otherwise you will be snoozing quickly. But this is what he said. And he has a book to the pastors, and he wrote this: because there are many eyes upon you, therefore there will be many observers of your failures. If other men may sin without observation, you cannot. You should thankfully consider how great a mercy this is, that you have so many eyes to watch over you, and so many ready to tell you of your faults, and so have greater helps than others, at least for the restraining of your sin. That's a proper perspective. All right, so it just turned the perspective, because a lot of times the devil takes and says, see, everybody's looking at you. Well, what that means is, all right, I can be holier, not holier than thou, but I mean just holier. I can use that, God can use that to help me to not like sin in my life. And he continues on, he says, though they may do it with a malicious mind, yet you have the advantage by it. And that is true. Somebody may be out there and maliciously trying to say, well, what about this or this? Take it, look at it, say, you know what? I might find some good in it. God can take anything and make good out of it. And that's what you have to understand. So along with that, that is, with criticism, that's some reasons why criticism may come. All right, so we listed out about 6 reasons. The second aspect is, what do I do with it? Okay, so why criticisms may come. Now, what do I do with the criticisms when they come? So I'm going to give you 3 ideas. First, use accurate criticism as an opportunity to change. Where do we find that? Find that in the book of Proverbs. Again, we try to tie Scripture to all through our lessons. We've been trying to tie Scriptures. Why? Because we want to find out what the Bible has to say. So use accurate criticism as an opportunity to change. Proverbs 15. Let me read verse 31 and 32. The ear that heareth the reproof, the ear that heareth the reproof of life, abideth among the wise. He that refuseth instruction despiseth his own soul, but he that heareth reproof getteth understanding. So what is it telling us? Reproof, accurate reproof. What is it going to help me do? It's going to help me get understanding. It's going to help me be a wise person. So use accurate criticism as an opportunity to change. Secondly, use inaccurate criticism as an opportunity to teach. Where do we find that? 2 Timothy. Remember Paul instructing Timothy, who is a minister of some sort. Some believe a pastor, some believe an evangelist. But 2 Timothy 2, right now, a verse that we know is verse 22. It says, flee also youthful lust, but follow, and it gives us a list of things to follow: righteousness and faith and charity. And he tells us that we need to have a pure heart. That's in verse 22. Verse 23, it says, but foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strifes. Verse 24, and the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men. Now notice what it says next. It's talking about strife here. Okay, that strife is going to come. It seems like in the context it's talking about strife coming because of foolish and unlearned questions. And what that can be is also inaccurate statements. Where do we see that sometimes? Inaccurate statements about your life, your conduct. All right? They don't have the knowledge. They don't understand it all. So what should the servant of the Lord do? He must not strive, be gentle unto all men. But notice in that phrase it says, it's continuing, but apt to teach, patient. So I use inaccurate criticisms as an opportunity to teach, and meekness instructing those that oppose themselves, if God peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth. So, if inaccurate truths are coming against you, I should go out there, grab them, beat the snot out of them, bring them up front, drag their face up and down, right? Shake them up and down and say, now, tell them the truth. It just doesn't seem like the context here. All right, so let's see. Let's read it again. All right, so here are foolish and unlearned. Okay, we're supposed to avoid them, knowing that they do gender strife. So here, they're wanting, what are these foolish and unlearned questions wanting to do? They're wanting to cause what? Strife, which is friction, which is fighting, which is not unity, and that could be in the church. So, and the servant of the Lord should strive and bring them before the church and beat the snot out of them. Nope, the servant of the Lord must not strive, be gentle, apt to teach, and then it says, in meekness instructing those that oppose themselves. If God peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth. What should we do? Don't get bent out of shape. So use inaccurate criticisms as an opportunity to teach. And show then, out of that meekness, I remember we talked about Moses, who was the meekest man on the earth, according to Christ. And what do we notice about him? Was he attacked viciously with inaccurate things? Yes. But you brought us out of Egypt to kill us. Okay. All right. So how does he do it? In fact, what do we see that Moses did? He loved his people so much that sometimes when God said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kill everybody and I'll just take you and start a new nation. Now that, probably some of you in the dormitory, yeah. Oh yeah. We'll blow up the dorm and have a new dorm. Right? With robots that obey me. Okay? Or something like that. I'm going to create this new environment. New breed of people. All right, that are nice. Okay? And you say, well, what did Moses do? Meekness? God's ready to be done with them. And what is Moses intervenes and says, no. No, you said you'd bless them. I notice that change, and he comes and he tries to teach his people. I'm not saying it's easy, because what do we know about Moses also? Did he lose it one time? Yes. Was it irritating? Yes. But yet God looks back at Moses and said, that man, as far as meekness, you should try to emulate that. Okay, so we use inaccurate criticism as an opportunity to teach. Thirdly, so there's three types of criticism. There's accurate, there's inaccurate, there's a third category. There's malicious. Use malicious criticism as an opportunity to minister grace. Now, what do we mean by that? We talked about grace a little bit. It's one of the characteristics that we should have in our lives. But in Matthew chapter 5, the Bible says this in verse 43. Ye have heard that it had been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. Oh yeah. Now I'm right there. Oh yeah. Hate thine enemy. I like that. But I say unto you, love your friends. Bless them that say nice things about you. Do good to them that buy you lunch and take you out to eat. And pray for them which pray for you. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the dude version. All right, but let me read you. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father, which is in heaven, for he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. So what are we supposed to do? Malicious intent is against us. So I'm supposed to then just lash back out. I'm not saying that you can't defend yourself, but sometimes it's just a waste of time. It's going to sidetrack you. Do you think that the devil wants us sidetracked? Especially, we're wanting to serve God. We're wanting to, and what is the result of our service to God? It should be souls being saved and people being discipled, people growing in the Lord. So what does the devil want to do? Do you think he wants that sidetracked? So if a malicious statement against you can get you sidetracked, he's going to do it. So be careful of that. When people criticize us out of their anger, jealousy, frustration, even hatred, Jesus commands that we forgive them, but also pray for them. Pray for them. They don't deserve our prayer. They don't deserve to be blessed. You may scream, but we have to follow the Bible. Okay? When we take on that attitude of grace towards someone that's been malicious, judgmental, spiteful, what happens is their criticism stays out there because it hasn't affected you. It hasn't affected you. And most of the time, I believe that's the idea of heaping coals upon their head. There's a lot of debate on what that means. The people that are malicious they say, yeah, I'm gonna have coals of fire on their head. But it seems to indicate, a lot of people, the coals on their head, some people believe in the custom, it was that fire has always been a very important thing in life, especially you go back to that time era. A lot of times the fire would never go out and they would have coals, and they would transport the coals in pots, and a lot of times it would be a pot that was on their head and they're transporting it. Okay? And so the idea of coals being upon their head, some people believe that actually what you're doing is you're helping them build their fire, which gives them sustenance, which gives them food, which gives them warmth. And you'd say, why am I going to help them? Well, that's kind of what the Bible is saying. I'm not saying that I'm going to go and I'm going to pay for the ad that maligns me. No, I'm not saying you have to pay for it. Like, hey, so what do you need a picture of me? Let me send that to you. All right, no. I'm not saying you have to help them malign you. But what you have to be careful of is when the malicious attacks come, realize again the source. And the source may not necessarily be them, it's the devil. The devil wants us out of line in God's service. Okay? So we see a couple of these things. And the cost of leadership, self-sacrifice, loneliness, fatigue, criticism. We covered the criticism. The fifth thing, and I'm thinking that we may have to cover that tomorrow because I've made some notes on that, is rejection. And I thought I jotted a couple of notes, but I don't think I copied them into my notes here. But rejection, so we may end up covering some of that coming back to it, so leave a little gap there. Rejection, that's number 5. Number 6, pressure and perplexity. All right, so pressure, I just put it as pressure. Cost of leadership, there's going to be pressure. Now, what does that mean? You're going to feel pressure from yourself because we like to accomplish things. That's something that's in most people. There's a drive, and that's good. I would say there's an overemphasis on numbers today. And as I talk with the bus, I talk with our staff about it. And you just have to have a balance. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you're praying enough. Because, all right, let's say in a church situation, I don't know how else you're going to judge things. Like, oh, so how's your church going? I don't know. So how many you have? Oh, we don't count. Oh, so is it kind of like, like a little bit kind of full? Oh, we have a few. All right, well, it's just kind of hard to judge. All right, so do you do that with your finances? Like say, hey boss, so can I have a check? Yeah, I'll give you some. Like, well, what do you mean, like some? Yeah, I'll give you a lot. Well, what is that? A lot could be a lot of pennies. Or you think about it, it could be a lot of quarters. All right, it could be a lot of dimes. All right, well, I'd like a lot of 20s, actually a lot of hundreds, right? But he may have a different concept. So vagueness doesn't necessarily help you a lot. There has to be some type of way we judge things. So like on the buses, if we came in and like in the back, we've been working on this and we have our numbers up there. And I have a goal for them because it's a spring campaign. It's not all about that, but how else can I judge? Right? Next to it, we're having a spring campaign. We call it a spring push, which means that you push a little bit. So next to it, we just said, did good. All right? So instead of a goal, it just says, okay. Okay? And maybe a happy face. All right, well, I want to know. We have a goal and we talk about it. I'm not going to try to make it absurd. But how else do you know? All right? Look, I have a few. So there is something about numbers. You just have to make sure, though, especially in a ministry setting, that it's not everything to you. And you always have to be praying and asking God that is not everything to you. Because is there an importance in one person? Yes, and you know that. There's an importance in one person. Is it encouraging to be around a lot of people that love the Lord? Yes. Right, but we can't discount the one. Is there times that there's gonna be ebbs and flows? Is there times that, man, it just seems like there's people getting saved? Yes, and that's good. But make sure that it's not overemphasis on the results. And rather than result driven, I want to be kind of God driven, and a term that we don't use that much is holiness. I think we get scared of it, but kind of holiness driven. And what is that? My pathway, my steps, I want ordered by the Lord. Every step. So if my steps, if I'm doing what God says, and I don't see tons of people say, I'm still happy. Why? Because my steps, I'm going to align them up with God. All right, but in a church setting, there's pressure. Now, why is there pressure? Why would there be? All right, so why would the numbers matter so much to a pastor? All right, think about it. We're thinking here. Why would they matter some? All right, I understand souls, but let's say practically, why would it matter?
Just to see the growth of the church.
See the growth, but we're going even more practical than that. More practical than that. Why? Right. So, do you think the pastor wants to eat? All right, if there's nobody here, will I get paid? I don't know how. Okay, I could rob. I could come up with something. I could come up. But so in the practicality, there is some of that, right? And you say, you shouldn't be thinking about money. Well, how can you tell a pastor that? How you say, you should be concerned about that. Well, you are. I mean, tell your lay people that. Why are you working? All you care about is money. Well, they have to eat. Well, in the same way, the pastor has to eat. He needs, and that comes from getting people into the church. Now, can there be an overemphasis so that you compromise? Yes, there can be. But there has to be some emphasis on it. Otherwise, you have nobody. So there is some pressure there. Because if you have nobody, guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be finding some way to get food on the table. So there is some of that pressure there. Okay? There's other pressures. As I mentioned to you, there is nothing that'll wear you out like dealing with people. Nothing. Because when you're dealing with people, they need advice, they need help. Okay, even this week, all right, at the beginning of the week, I was up at the hospital because I have a member and they're having to take their mom into hospice. All right, and it's already done. They got to make decisions about it. That's not easy. All right, and I even sat and talked with them about it. I'm giving them a book tonight. I said, you know what? Let me get some stuff for you so you can read, and let's be in Scripture. Let's pray about it, because it's not easy. All right, even though they've known this was coming, it's still not easy. And that's what I even talked to them about it because I've been doing some other reading on it. I have a book that I'm going to have after preaching conference, and we're ordering it in just to help people when they're dealing with death. Because most people don't know how to deal with it properly. They don't deal with it biblically. All right, and so I was talking about, because some people say, you know what, I just have to be strong. I've got to be strong for them. I mean, it sounds weird, first of all, like it got to be strong for them, all right? Well, what, they're dying, all right? So I don't know that they really even know that you're strong, okay? Unless you pick them up, all right? But I don't know that that's there. And also, I mean, you're gonna hurt a little bit, all right? Even if they're older and it's a natural process that somebody passes away, you're gonna miss them. You're like, why are you crying? Well, because I like them. Right? It's just we're silly sometimes. I mean, you're gonna miss your mom. You're gonna miss her. All right, but there's a biblical way to deal with it, so we have to help them. All right, so here's that pressure. All right, also, all right, I've had a number of people. They'll come to you as a pastor, and they're going to be going into the hospital, or they have a problem, and they'll say, "Hey, pastor, can you pray for me?" What are you supposed to say? You know what? What am I supposed to do? Pray for all of you? All right? You need to chill. All right? You need a break. Okay? But why are they asking you to go up to the hospital? Why are they asking you when a problem occurs to pray for them? Is that in the Bible somewhere? Can anybody think of a passage? All right? James 5. Any sick among you? What does it say? What's the next phrase? Any sick among you, let him call for the elders of the church. You know what that word elders is? Pastors. So when someone's in the hospital, like, I ain't going to no hospital. Right? You're the pastor in there. And what does the Bible say? Go and pray for them. Pray with them. Right? Now, some of it is praying for wisdom, praying for guidance, but also you're praying for healing. Right? I've seen that happen here. Just recently, I had someone ask and say, hey, would you pray? And I sent an email around to our staff, and then I asked them to pray specifically for a couple of things. And I'm saying within days, the answer was there. And you'd say, well, that's just because of the power. No, it isn't. It's because God says that's the way to do it. And you follow His way, and God does it. It's not anything that we can say, ooh, we're so special. In fact, I was talking with a member recently over the last month and saying, I do not believe in faith healing. Just so you know. And I want you to explain what you're wanting as far as this prayer. Because if they believe in faith healing, I'm not going to pray for them in the way that they want. Because I think that they want the glory. So we want to make sure that biblically we're following. But you'd say, well, why are you sharing all that? Because that's pressure. That's pulling on you. Remember Jesus when he was walking through? He's walking through the crowd, and I think he was going with Jairus. Okay? And what happened to him? Somebody touched the hem of his garment. He knew it because of what? There's always a great debate. Those of you there in Life of Christ, that's a great debate. What did he mean? Right? He said, virtue went out of me, right? He felt, it seems like what it indicates to me, right? And this to me is after years of being in the ministry, what it seems like is he felt a tug on him. And you know what's going to happen when you're in the ministry? You're going to feel a tug. I'm just tired, worn out, pressure. Right, now, you're supposed to crack, and all of a sudden, you're in the pulpit and you're just twitching. Right in the middle, like, right? You're like, oh, what's up? I'll pray for our pastor. Right? I don't think you have to crack under the pressure, but you have to know that there's going to be pressure there. Why? Because people are going to be demanding that. Hey, can you pray for me? Yes, I'll pray for you. Why are they asking? Because the Bible tells them to. Understand that. So it's important. So the pressure is going to be there. After graduating from Edinburgh University at age 14, okay, in 1827, Robert Murray McShane was like a young man, right, 14. So I don't know if it was 16 or 17 years old, they asked Robert Murray McShane to come in and lead a congregation. It was over 1,000 people, this congregation, at 23 years old. Robert Murray McShane worked so hard that his health broke, and I think it was, at 29, he was dead. Okay? Before dying at age 29, this is what he said. God gave me a message to deliver and a horse to ride. Alas, I have killed the horse, and I cannot deliver the message. What did he learn? He learned that pressure, it brought him down. And I have a book of Robert Murray McShane's. I have an autobiography. I've read some of them. But the thing that to me is disheartening some is that at 29, I don't understand that God has a purpose, whatever, but I think there is something, and we've talked about this some, that the whole weight of the world cannot be on you. What does the Bible tell me? That pressure and all that, why do I have to have a good prayer life? And we talked about that at the beginning of our lectures. Why? Because I have to cast that care upon Him. If I am not caring for my spiritual needs myself, that pressure will crack you. And that also is physical, it's emotional, it's a whole bunch of things that are there. There's also our last thing, and then we'll tomorrow look at the test of leadership. There's a cost to others. Understand, and I have had, if you're wanting to look at it, I would recommend it maybe over the summer. I have had Pastor Burke came in and we recorded it this year for my pastoral theology class. So under classes, under pastoral theology, if you find Pastor Burke's lecture, Pastor Burke did a lecture on the pastor and his family. And it's an excellent lecture. I think it's about a 45-minute lecture. And so if you get some time, just write that down there. Because when you get some time, you can, that's why we're recording some of these to help people. Right? And the reason is that what he did was teach that there is a cost to your family when you're in the ministry. You just need to know that. And you have to plan for it. And sometimes you may have to back out of some things because that is more important. But there is a cost. There's a cost. There's pressures there. There's some strain there. And you have to realize that there's some cost. So there's a personal cost. All of the things listed above indicate to you and I that there's a personal cost when it comes to leadership. It will affect you. Jesus knew this when he was in the garden. And what did Jesus do though? He knew there was a cost. Remember Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane? But he said, nevertheless, not my will, but thine. All right, that cup, and that's another great debate in theology is what was in the cup? Right, really? We're not exactly sure. Some say sorrow, some say sin, some say a whole bunch of things, okay? But that cup, one thing that Jesus knew in drinking that cup, it was not going to be good. Otherwise, why would he say, let this cup pass from me? Oh, just because it was just some noxious poison? I know that. Okay, it wasn't that. Because it was disheartening. And what you have to understand is there's going to be sometimes in the ministry that you're going to say, I didn't know about this. At the perils of the ministry, there's some cost. There is some cost. And you're going to have to come to that point, and maybe it's a Garden of Gethsemane time, but you notice that it is a Garden of Gethsemane. So what should I be doing? I should go and pray. And in praying, I'm going to analyze, and I'm going to see this, and I'm going to understand. This is going to hurt. But God may say, go ahead and do it. Then you take the cup, and you say, nevertheless, not my will, but thine. There is costs that are there. And in leadership, there's cost. But I can tell you this, when you're leading people, though, God has to have people leading. God has chosen that way. That's why he has pastors. That's why he has leaders in the church. Why does he have that there? Because God has chosen to use human means to lead his people. So you don't have to get bent out of shape and say, oh, this is impossible, I can't do it. I understand that. I understand coming at it and saying, man, this seems overwhelming, but that's why we have the Spirit's help. And you say, well, I have flaws. We already dealt with that. And so you're going to get criticism. But learn how to look at those things in the biblical perspective. And the biblical perspective is, God's called me to do this. Also, the criticism is going to help me stay right. There are some costs. And what does that mean? It means that sometimes there's going to be things that I can't do that I wanted to do in life. But oh well. But it's for God's glory. And we ask him to get the glory out of it. All right, so we'll finish up tomorrow with our lecture.